Hey, everybody, and welcome to our 23.2 preview show. We have moved back across the Atlantic to the Garden State. Bison CrossFit in Midland Park, New Jersey will be the site of the live announcement of the second test of the Open, and two of the best in the world will go head-to-head, Roman Krennikov and Pat Vellner. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Of course, last week we were in the studio. This week, both Tommy and I are on the road. We are in New Jersey for the live announcement. We're going to break down everything that happened in 23.1. Brian Friend will join us to go over some of the more notable scores that you may have missed. Lauren Kalil, she's in Alpharetta, Georgia with the Training Think Tank crew. And of course, we will talk about the 23.2 matchup. First of all, Tommy, how did 23.1 go for you?
Ooh, Sean, I think myself, along with a few other people worldwide, got a stern reminder of just how heavy that 135 barbell or that 95-pound barbell, whatever it was for those 30 cleans, could be once under fatigue. And then it really was kind of a huck and pray scenario once I got to the muscle ups.
Man, I told you this before, but 135 has never felt so heavy to me. I mean, I got to that first rep after those wall balls and I went, oh no, this is not going to go like I thought it would. So didn't match my score from 2014, but still I was really happy with the effort. Were you able to beat your score?
So I was 2 reps shy of what my 2014 score was. But, given the circumstances of me being gone on a bachelor party all weekend, you know what? I was on a boat. I'll take it. 9 years down the road, I'll take it.
Well, let's talk about two individuals who did much better than we did. Here are your unofficial winners for 23.1. On the women's side, Emma Cary, she is back, 278 reps. Right now has the top spot on the women's leaderboard. Again, these are unofficial, and it's Roman Krennikov at 306 right now. And Tommy, Roman Krennikov is really continuing on this tear that he has been on since the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, we've really seen him flourish, with the opportunities to compete, whether it be at Rogue on certain events or at Wodapalooza, resuming his battle from the games with Ricky. And then this first event that comes out of the gate, sure, it has muscle ups, at the end, and that's not, ring muscle ups aren't typically something that's his strong suit, but so much of this test in particular is predicated on engine and the ability to flex that engine throughout the entirety of the workout. We were joking about the weight of those 135-pound barbells, but being able to move that, rip off big chunks of toes to bar, really make that rower hum, that's right up Roman Krennikov's wheelhouse. And that's evidence no better than the fact that his tiebreak time was 6:49. He got through all of the cleans in 6 minutes and 49 seconds. I don't know where you were, Sean. I think I was still adjusting my feet straps on the rower. It's just a phenomenal way for him to build some momentum going into the rest of the season now that he has a new home and a new lease on life, being able to be in the States.
I mentioned Emma Cary, her score right now, 278 reps. She missed last season with that back injury, and she said facing that adversity made her better, and she is really ready to attack the 2023 season.
I definitely needed some sort of adversity to happen in my career. I look back on so many careers, like not just in CrossFit, but just in sports in general, how people had a big loss and then they achieved something great. Big injury, then they achieved something great. Like something was taken from them. And like that was like the catalyst. That was the fuel to the fire that they needed. And not only is this fuel for me now, like the lessons are just endless. Maybe I would have learned these lessons eventually, but it's almost kind of like a chip on my shoulder now of like I had to miss last year. So this year needs to be worth it. Like this year needs to be good enough for 2 years. And yes, that's a lot of pressure to put on 1 year. And my career is going to be so long because of that decision we made last year. Like if I would have competed last year, the damage would probably have already been done.
I know this is just week 1 of the Open. It's the only thing we have to talk about, so we can overreact a little bit here. But how important was this for Emma Cary to get her season started off on such a good result?
Well, anytime you're coming off an injury, it's important to get a few in the fairway just to start to feel like yourself as an athlete. And, we got to see that at Wodapalooza. We had a chance to sit down and chat with her and Matt Torres and see her start to shake the competition rust and really start to get her confidence back. Now, you flash back to 2021 when she broke through to the games as this teenage phenom. She won open workout 21.2. So she has showed us that she has the capacity to knock one out of the park globally against anyone in these types of tests at this stage. So seeing her come back out and win one like this that has a little bit of added skill to it with the ring muscle ups, as well as some elements, like cleans and wall balls where she can just put her head down and go. I think that's just a huge boost of confidence for her going the rest of the way, considering that Mal O'Brien is just below her on the leaderboard, and we're going to be talking about those two all season long.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there's a theme that we will be following between the two of those athletes throughout the entirety of the season. Like you said, there were a lot of other impressive performances throughout both the men's and women's leaderboard. And to help us go through those, we are joined now by the official friend of the show, Brian Friend. Brian will get into the scores in just a second, but I will start the same way I started with Tommy. How did 23.1 go for you?
I love this as the first workout of the Open. I had a blast with it. It was a workout for my very first Open. Back then, I was very new and raw. Didn't move very well. Didn't understand what I was doing so much. I got through 20 of the 30 cleans. So 9 years later on, I was able to do 5 ring muscle ups this time around. I didn't have any misses. I haven't really done ring muscle ups this year, so it was a personal victory for me, but also just gave me some inspiration to get back up there on the rings. And I think that's one of the things that is cool about the Open, is that a lot of times it will expose the thing you haven't been practicing, and then you have a motivation of something to focus on next year. So if ring muscle ups come up next year, I will hopefully be a little bit more proficient.
Okay, let's start on the men's side. Who are some of the athletes who impressed you with their performances in 23.1?
Yeah, tons of impressive performances. Obviously, the guys at the top stand out, but I look a little bit deeper than that. And there were 3 guys in particular that I have my eye on for this season after things that I saw either last year during semifinals or in the off season. Those 3 guys are Victor Hoffer. He was 10th worldwide in this workout. Bill Leahy shows up on the leaderboard as William Leahy IV. He was 12th worldwide in this workout. And Ludvig Hansen from Finland, who was 41st worldwide in this workout. And I think that right off the bat, this workout really will reward fitness. These are 3 guys I think could be making a push to make the games at semifinals this year. And so it's not too early for them to be recognized for this performance and maybe be on our radar as someone to watch when semifinals do roll around.
Over on the women's side, there were some impressive performances worth talking about. But look, we have to start with Sam Briggs. She's in her 40s and still putting up incredible scores.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Briggs is a legend of the sport. She's done so many remarkable things. And historically, muscle-up workouts have been the thing she excelled on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can do that forever. So to still have a 6th place worldwide finish, like you said, being in her 40s, and when she's not training full-time the way that a lot of these other women are, it's remarkable. And to me, it is the standout performance from 23.1. As far as a couple other ladies go that I thought really surprised me and showed out in this workout, finishing inside the top 20, Lori Clement. She's also master's age, 35 to 39, and Helena Collins, who competed on a team last year. She's 34 years old. All 3 of them in the top 20 worldwide, and just want to commend each of them for an excellent week 1 of this year's Open.
Finally, Brian, who surprised you with their performances here in week number 1 of the Open?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Open season, and we never know exactly where athletes are in their training or what they're going to be doing coming into it, how seriously they're taking it. However, there's certain athletes that when you just think about them and what you expect from them, especially on Open style workouts and especially with some of these movements, a few of the athletes that maybe caught me off guard by not doing as well as I thought: Saxon Panchik and his brother Spencer, Justin Medeiros, Daniel Brandon, Amanda Barnhart, to name just some, games athletes, a lot of them regularly in the top 10 that were outside the top 1 or 200 even worldwide on this. But I think maybe stood out the most was Chandler Smith, who I'm expecting great things from this year. It's such a great offseason, 267th on this workout. I'd like to see that, a little bit better. And Emma McQuaid, who, everything on paper should say this should be a great workout for her, and someone who, with some of the ladies that are missing from the field this year, could eventually be challenging for top 10 at the games, but outside the top 100 on a workout that I thought she would do well on. So those are 2 of the athletes that I'm really kind of taking a look at to see if maybe they'll improve in weeks 2 and 3, or at least when the quarterfinals roll around.
Brian, thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you again next week as we review 23.2 and get ready for 23.3. Let's bring Tommy Marquez back in here. And one person that Brian didn't talk about that we are used to talking about whenever we talk about impressive performances or top scores is Tia Toomey. Not competing this year. She's pregnant. She still did the test and got 180 reps.
Yeah, you take the Aussie out of the competition, if you will, but you can't take the competition out of the Aussie. Tia's still doing it, still getting 180 reps, getting to that muscle up point, and just under 12:30. I don't know about you, Sean, but that's eerily close to what my tie break was, and I'm not growing a human inside of me. So kudos to Tia, the champ, as always. Still throwing her hat in the ring and still throwing down alongside the community in this event, and she deserves some props for that performance because it's still very, very impressive.
It is absolutely unreal. Well, speaking of women who are kicking some serious butt, Lauren Kalil last week was on the road in Tennessee with the Proven Crew. She is out amongst the people again, this time in Alpharetta, Georgia, with the Training Think Tank crew.
The 2023 season has brought some new faces here to Training Think Tank, both on-site and remote. Heading into their 10th season, they now have Bethany Shadburn, Annika Greer, they're bringing back Lauren Fisher, and have former Team Games athlete Ashley Wozni, and are creating 2 teams. So a lot going on here at TTT. I spoke with the founder and he said, regardless of what stages these athletes make it to, the vision remains the same.
Yeah, so I think TTT is just trying to make sure that both of our teams, all of our individual athletes, all of our group training athletes have a great season, whatever that means for them. Because some of them it means making it to the game, some of them it's making the quarterfinals, but we can only do our part.
Now that the scores are finalized from week 1, it was Alexis Raptis who took that leading score at Training Think Tank, finishing 35th worldwide on the women's side. But before we can move on to week 2, it's really notable to see how many athletes were able to improve their score from 2014 up until now.
Yes, I was one of the OG athletes back in 2014, which is crazy. I'm like, how is that 9 years ago? I was one of the 15 girls who got back to the rower back then. So I took 11th place in the world in this workout back in 2014. So going into this workout, I was like, there's a lot of pressure because I'm like, I did kind of good back then.
I did it in 2014. I had just joined CrossFit like a week before the Open started. And they were like, Friday Night Lights, like everyone goes, does workouts and gets beers after. And I was like, I'm down. So I got my first toast to bar ever in 14.2. So I rode 60 calories and got 11 toast to bar.
Back in 2014, I just started doing CrossFit. So I had just gotten muscle ups, I think maybe like 4 to 6 months prior. So it wasn't great, but I did have a score to compare to.
And speaking of the evolution of the sport, it's possibly the end of an era for veteran of the sport, Noah Olson. He announced that this will be his final year, his 10th year competing as a games individual. And when speaking with his coach of 7 seasons, Max Alhaj, he says he wants to try to help him leave a legacy behind that he's proud of.
For Noah, it's his last season competing as an individual, but I don't think he's done as a competitor. I hope it's a great season. I hope that he can find fulfillment. He's kind of redefining his purpose for getting out on the competition floor. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Another veteran of the sport, 8-time CrossFit Games athlete Travis Mayer will be sitting out for the first time this season due to a hand injury. Now, just days before the start of the 2023 season, he was trying to practice different movements, seeing if he could push through the Open. Ultimately, it just wasn't in the cards for him, but he still has plans heading into the 2024 season.
Yes, you can expect to see me back for 2024. Next would be just getting healthy and then getting ready for Road, Dubai, all the kind of off-season events and going from there.
Any big goals in training that you can do?
I'm going to try, I've squatted 500 before. I'd like to do that again. I'd like to run a sub 5-minute mile, and I would like to run a sub 18-minute 5K again. So we'll kind of just get my conditioning and running really well. So hopefully at Rogue, there's a lot of running this year.
Last year's Games rookie, Alexis Raptis, on the other hand, is amping up and getting ready for a 2023 season, hoping that this year is better than the last.
I would love to be on the podium. I obviously know that a lot has to align for that to happen, and I believe it can happen, but I also know it just comes down to like so many things out of my control when you're at the games. So I think I'll define a successful games experience by, like, obviously I want to do better than I did last year, but I also want to leave just feeling like I didn't make as many mistakes, just kind of executed better, stuck to my plan, did things that, I knew I was capable of doing, because I felt like this year I made so many mistakes, and I was really proud of my performance and proud of my placement, but I also left feeling a little annoyed because of the mistakes that I made that ultimately just added up. And I wanted to be top 10, but then you think about all these little things that you could have done different, and you're like, man, I could have been a little bit higher up there. So we'll see.
Lucky for us, we only have a few hours left until we see what's in store for week 2. Me personally, I hope to see a heavy barbell in the mix. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And remember, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the content that we will be putting out around the Open and the 2023 CrossFit Games season. Looking back on last week, one of the big stories that continues here is athletes who will not be competing in the 2023 season. Of course, that started with Toomey, but last week we found out about Travis Mayer. Haley Adams is not going to be competing as well. And now Christy O'Connell has decided to retire as well. And when you talk about Christy O'Connell, Tommy, you got to put her up there with maybe being one of the top American women of all time.
She maybe doesn't have the podium finishes or some of the high finishes and accolades that you get with having a medal around your neck at the games. But if you look at when she came onto the scene in 2016, kind of an unheralded athlete, she was one of our dark horses that year, shows up, makes an immediate impact, qualifying out of a stout Central Regional that year, and then going on to notch 6 individual performances, a single team performance in 2019, never finishing lower than 13th, 4 finishes as an individual inside of the top 10, and perennially showing up anytime we had some of those longer endurance events to push the best ever Tia-Clair Toomey in those events. And how did she do it? She did it with authenticity, integrity, a smile on her face, and she was a great representative for the greater CrossFit community as a whole. And I really think that's exemplified by an anecdote that was told by Noble's Todd Melanie when in 2021, Mal O'Brien, their new athletes showing up to the games, and they had to pick someone to essentially be next to her, have her locker next to, and kind of guide her a little bit. And who did they choose? Christy Airmo O'Connell. And if you haven't already, I highly suggest you go to Christy's YouTube page, watch the retirement video. It'll leave you in tears, and it just shows how passionate she is for the sport and the community. And even though she isn't going to be competing, I know she's going to make a huge impact, and we really do wish her the best.
Last week, right before the announcement of 23.1, while we were on air, we found out about Haley Adams sitting out this season as well to work on some personal things that she mentioned in an Instagram post. So now we have Tia Toomey not competing, Cara Saunders not competing as well, and now Haley Adams. These are 3 women who had legitimate podium hopes. What does this mean for the women's competition now as we move into the 2023 season?
Well, first and foremost, you want to wish Haley the best. And anytime, we get to this scenario, health and well-being comes first. And I know the search for sense of self is paramount in this scenario. So we really do wish Haley the best. But now, taking a competition filter to that, you look at some of these other announcements, there is a huge void on the women's side, not just at the top, not just for the podium contention, but we now have 5 women inside the top 16 at the games last year that will not be returning to Madison this year. That means there's a ton of opportunity, and there's a huge chance for new names to show up inside the top 10, inside the top 5, and for some people to potentially have a medal around their neck on the podium come August for the very first time in their careers.
Let's turn our attention now to this week. 23.2 live from CrossFit Bison in Midland Park, New Jersey. They're an affiliate that has been well represented in the Open in years past. And once again, that is the case here in 2023. Roman Krennikov taking on Pat Vellner. It's going to be a fun matchup. Who do you think has more to prove here?
Oh, man. It's weird to say given how much Pat has accomplished across his career, but for some reason, maybe just the pulse of the community, it feels like maybe Pat has something to prove in this scenario. Obviously, Ricky and Roman as a duo in their battles with Justin kind of took the community by storm, and Roman has continued to back that up with impressive performances. But I think maybe Pat has to remind everyone, hey, I got a neck full of medals hanging around for multiple appearances, bronze, silver. I've won the Open. I've won multiple events outside of the CrossFit Games season. And maybe he just has to remind everyone that, you know, he's got a few good swings left in his bag. And I think Pat in general outperforms Roman in the Open. I think this last workout, even though they were only 2 reps apart, was the first time Roman has beaten Pat in an Open workout in the last 3 seasons. So this is a huge opportunity for Pat to remind everyone why he is one of the best, and honestly, probably the best athlete ever in this sport who hasn't won the overall title yet.
Yeah, Pat Vellner and Roman Krennikov. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. There are also going to be some community athletes throwing down as well. And remember, the live announcement of 23.2 CrossFit Bison, Midland Park, New Jersey, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Tommy and I will be on the call. Once again, that is why we are on the road. Meanwhile, you can listen to our podcast. That's going to be out Thursday. Should be out right now. We're going to go a lot more in depth in 23.1 and break down more the matchup between Roman and Pat Vellner and talk about some other things going on out there in the CrossFit world. You can check out the time cap. Tommy's got you covered with all the headlines you may have missed this past weekend. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you want, you can join us on Patreon for exclusive content. Well, that is going to do it for our live studio preview show of 23.2. For Lauren Kalil, Brian Friend, and Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy 23.2, and we will see you next week.